What's up, everybody? Hey, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. First day of 2021. And today I thought I would go ahead and do a Facebook Live. I'm actually in Hermosa Beach today. So I'm a little north of Redondo where I normally am. And I'm with a friend, and I'm going to invite her to come on in a second here. But I thought I'd go on early just to talk. We'll talk about what's happening once you're under contract, right? So that's what this whole series is about. Is like once you're under contract, what goes on with the deal. And so right now, I'll just kind of get into it a little bit. But if you do have a second and you do enjoy these, feel free to throw me up a thumbs up. I'd love to get a thumbs up or a heart or something fun in there, something fun for 2021. And also let me know if you can hear me well, right? Because sometimes I can't tell, and I have these headphones on, but I'm right next to the beach, and there's water, and there's wind. So I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. Very cool. So let's get started here. So I have two deals that I'm going to talk about. First deal is the deal that's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Okay. And in this deal, we are close to closing. So we're going to close next week Wednesday. So by the time I shoot this again next week, we'll have been closed. So that's kind of exciting for us. We're super been anticipating this for a little while now. So what do you do in your sort of last week as you're preparing for basically preparing for the close? All right. So we do the updated financials. So that's a big thing, right? Is that we have updated financials, and we see like when you have updated financials, you need to get them from the seller and find out like how the property is performing ever since we've been negotiating, right? And so we got those updated financials, the P&L, the rent roll, and basically the property looks pretty much the same. It really hasn't changed. Occupancy has been steadily at 65%, which is what we thought it would be. And so we just wanted to make sure that there's not some kind of crazy spike down or spike up in the rent roll or the P&L. And so everything looks good right now. Feel good about that. Another thing we did this week is we do what's called a proration of rents. So we're closing on the 6th, so January 6th. So we're going to take over beginning of the month. So there are people that have prepaid their rents, and since we're taking over the majority of January, we are going to get the majority of the rent for January, right? So we have to get a certain proration of rents. So that's all done on a spreadsheet that is given to us. We've got an early look at it just to see, just a preliminary spreadsheet of all the people who have paid and or anticipating paying, and what is going to be our portion of that. Now, one thing is that we're going to get another draft of it, I guess an updated draft of it, Saturday night. So what's today? Today's Friday. So we're going to get it Saturday night. And so we get that Saturday night. We have to approve it on Sunday, and it gets sent to the title company on Monday morning. So right away, Monday morning, the title company has the updated proration of rents so that they can put on their settlement statements all the, how much money we should be getting in the month of January, how much money the other person should be getting during the month of January. Okay? So that is something that we're doing as you're closing out the month. You've got to make sure that you've got all that in order. So we're also doing the takeover. So we're getting ready for that takeover, right? So as we take over the property, we have things like the utilities. We got to transfer all the utilities, so we have to prepare for the transfer of the utilities. We want the internet up there, and also the seller has 7 units that basically he has himself, right? So he lets his maintenance people have one. Maybe he has family members that have stuff. Maybe he has some of his own, but basically 7 units that are his own that we either need him to let us know what he's going to do with them, right? Is he going to keep them? Is he going to keep them there because he's going to be our tenant then? We need to know that. Is he going to remove his stuff? Does he need some time? Does he need a few days to remove his stuff? Just let us know what's going on right there. All right. But that's 7 units that we need to basically take care of and be accounted for. All right. And I guess the last thing as we're closing our property is that we need to think about the closing documents. And so these closing documents are coming from the title company Monday-ish since we're closing on Wednesday, so we're going to be getting them about Monday or early Tuesday. And we need to do things like review the settlement statement, which has all the numbers, right? So numbers of this, it has, you know, proration of rents, has the earnest money deposits, has anything else that's accounted for in terms of like where all the money goes, who should get what money, and how it's all split up. So that's all going on. Title insurance, we've got the docs for the title insurance, those are all updated. And then we have to do a remote notary because none of us are in Baton Rouge, so we're all doing this remotely. And so we need it's kind of like this weird thing, but I guess in the state of Louisiana, you need 2 witnesses as well. So I need to get this notarized, but I also need to bring 2 witnesses. And so my wife and I called up one of my friends and said, hey, I need you to come at 5 o'clock and meet me at the bank. So that's just kind of one of those things that you got to get done. You got to make sure it's done before the 6th and the money is all wired. But that all said, that's next week, Tuesday, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pretty close to being done. And so we're pretty close to feeling like, hey, this is it. You know, we're about to close and feeling very excited about closing on our first self-storage deal. It's 175 units, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and looking forward to getting more, right? So if you have any questions about that deal or about what's happening when you close a deal, you know, let me know, because that's what this whole series is about. It's like what goes on when you're closing a deal. And I'm going to move on to talking about acquisitions, right? Because we are trying to acquire another deal. So there's a second deal that's going on that we're trying to acquire right now. And this one is it's a deal that we have in Illinois, and we're at the very early stages of the negotiations right now. So we're just waiting to hear back from the seller on a PSA we sent over. So we had to spend some money on a legal team to write us a PSA that, you know, is in accordance with Illinois law, and that will. So the seller has that. He's had it for a couple days. He's got to get us a response back and let us know what we feel or what he feels about it, and sign it, and you know, basically review it. Now, the other things about sort of the acquisition side is that since it's so early, there isn't much else we can do. It's kind of, we're putting together the team, and we're getting, you know, putting together a team and talking about what it would be the plans, what are some options for this property. But I have got a chance to talk with a couple people earlier this week. So I talked to one person, and this person is a self-storage investor as well. They invest in Missouri, and he has 2 properties which are conversions. And I just wanted to, you know, mention that I got a chance to talk to somebody who's done 2 conversions, which basically means he's taken a dark commercial property, so it was like a grocery store, and he's converted that now into self-storage. Class A properties, you know, brand new, everything brand new. So it's exciting. You know, I think that's kind of the wave of the future, and I think that's something I'm going to be looking towards down the line, and not really ready yet to take one of those on, but certainly I feel like they're very exciting. Let me see. Other things we do just to prepare for our acquisition side is we engage more lenders, because there's a couple lenders that we just want to make sure that we talk to them, just getting them prepared for what's the documents that they're going to be showing them, because we need to have their input ASAP. So that's pretty much what we've been doing for the closing of the property, as well as the one that we're looking to acquire. So thank you, Conan, Shirley. Good to see you guys. There's a bunch of people here. I just want to shout out everybody who's come on here. So Andrew, Andy Hubbs, hey, Giancarlo. Hey, I haven't seen you, buddy. I haven't seen you for a long time. David Legat. Thank you, Conan. Mike Abram. My friend Mary Nguyen. I'm about to bring her in right now. Bridget Smith, Mark Werner, Anna Himes. I'm saying that right. Thank you all for joining. So, one of my friends is visiting town, and so let me see. So, friends is visiting town. She's a great friend of mine that I've had for years now. So her name is Mary, and she's actually we're hanging out, but she's on her own video right now. And I thought I'd just bring her in to just talk a little bit about, you know, she's learning about real estate, but it's kind of in the very, very early stages. So I wanted her to ask more of the why questions. So what I gave to you earlier on was a little bit more of the how, and what you're doing once you're actually under contract, and a lot of the sort of details and the granular details that hopefully I'm trying to give to you guys. But I wanted to talk with her about, just kind of more on the general sense of the, sort of the why questions and any questions that you might have, Mary. So I appreciate you, Mary. You want to give an intro to everybody and let everybody know about you?
All right. So I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I happen to be in Southern California, and I just recently asked how to speak to my friends about investments because we are not investors by practice, and it's something that we've been curious about. I don't know much about it. My first instinct is to think real estate, and when I think real estate, I think of you, Powell, because you've been doing this for so many years. I would say, can we just even take it back and explain, like, what is multi-family investing, and just giving us that breakdown of what that is?
Sure. And that's a good question, because a lot of times I end up glossing over a lot of these things. But so multifamily investing is, it's a section of real estate investing, right? And people invest in real estate for a number of different reasons, right? One of the reasons why is a lot of people like physical things, right? They don't. It's different than stocks and bonds because it's something physically that you can see and you can work on, and you it's more tangible, right? And in another sense, there's a lot of tax benefits. It's hard to go into it right now, but there's a lot of tax benefits to investing in real estate, right? Another thing about real estate is that if you're investing for cash flow, you buy a property, and then every month your tenants pay you, right? And you can basically reap the benefits of every month getting passive income or cash flow every month, right? So you buy a property. In general, it's going to appreciate as well. I mean, don't count on that too much, but in general, it will appreciate. But over time, it's also going to kick you off cash flow every month, right? Assuming the property is running well. Now, the good thing about real estate too is that you can buy it oftentimes at a discount, right? So you could buy it if it's not running well, or it's just somebody wants to get rid of it. You can buy it at a discount and then get it operating really well, and then also get it to appreciate in value significantly. So there's a lot of advantages to that. In terms of leverage is another advantage of why people invest in real estate. Leverage is I think it's one of the most powerful things, but I also think it's one of the most underrated things, because with leverage, you're basically, if you have, say, $100,000 and you're going to buy $100,000 of stock, well, you're just hoping it appreciates over time, right? If you use $100,000 to buy a real estate, you're probably not going to buy it all in cash. You can actually use that $100,000 to go buy a $300,000 house or apartment or self-storage facility. That leverages you up, and you take advantage of all that leverage, even though the bank is really the one that's helping you out. It's kind of a complicated statement, and hopefully I didn't lose everybody, but there's a lot of advantages to doing that, the leveraging up, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully that answered some of your questions. Easy acronym for people that are beginning is the word IDEAL, IDEAL. So,
okay.
What is the IDEAL? What does it stand for again? It's been a long time since I thought of it. Let me see. What is the I in IDEAL? Somebody help me out here. What is the I in IDEAL? The D I know is depreciation. So basically, you get tax write-offs. It's an easy way of saying you get tax write-off. E is equity buildup. So if your tenants are paying down your loan, right? You're not actually paying down your loan. Your tenants are paying down your loan. The A is appreciation. So like stocks, it appreciates in time, right? The L is leverage, right? So that, like I mentioned, that you're leveraging other people's money to buy something that's more valuable than you could buy on your own.
Yeah. That is my impression of what the benefit is, because I'm not necessarily in a position where I can invest wholly in a property myself. So the idea of what I think multifamily investing is that I can combine a pool of my income and still get that passive income every month with what I can afford. So
yep.
with that, so what's the benefit of me going with a group like? I mean, where do I even start? Actually, like, how do I know? How do I
Yeah.
get?
How
Like,
to get started, right?
who's
How to
right
get
for
started.
me? Like, how do I pick somebody to invest with?
Yeah. So when you're just getting started, there's a number of different things. Like the first thing is probably you need to get educated, right? You need to learn the language that real estate investors are talking about. You need to learn the strategy because there's many different strategies, but so you have to learn which strategy is the one that fits you the best, right? And what you're looking for. Are you looking for cash flow, or you may be looking to fix and flip a house and just get in and out really quickly, right? There's different types of things, and then there's different types of properties. Are you looking for a single family house? Are you looking for apartments, multifamily apartments? Are you looking for self-storage, or other? There's many other types. So it's really types of learning, like getting educated is really the first thing, right? And getting education-wise, hopefully we give you a lot of education here in Multifamily Masters. But there's a number of different books that we can recommend. I think podcasts are a great way to learn. There's a great number of podcasts where you can learn from a number of different people about
I'm
real
just gonna
estate.
ask you.
Okay, you could do that as well, sure. But once you get educated, right, is like you need to start vetting who you're going to invest with, right? So that's an important piece of the early due diligence. So as an investor, you're doing due diligence not only on the property, but you're doing due diligence on your partners. Like, what's the person's, criminal background, right? You want to do some due diligence. What's a person's experience?
Yeah.
Do I vibe with that person? Is their strategy the same strategy that I want to be on? Or are they doing something else, right? Do I believe in what they're doing, and do they have a track record? Those are really some of the most important things that you need to find out with them. So that's a little bit of the due diligence. But yes, you can pool money together with other investors and go buy something that individually you may not be able to purchase, right? And that's a way of leveraging other people's experience as well. So their experience, either their money, and anything that they have, their resources as well. So together, you can all be a lot stronger than maybe just individually you could.
So what does that cost me? So I get the benefit of your knowledge and experience, but what does that cost me with my investment?
You mean cost in terms of the dollar amount of your investing, or you mean what does it cost you in terms of partnering with somebody versus not partnering and going by yourself?
Both, primarily the cost, right? Because the natural instinct is, well, okay, if I do learn, then I could save the cost of hiring somebody to do this or partnering with somebody to do this because I can figure it out on my own. So what's the benefit of going and partnering with somebody versus doing it on my own?
Yeah. So when you can do things on, in real estate, there is ability to do things on your own. As you start to get into larger properties, it's a little harder to do things on your own because it requires you to have all that money, right? And eventually you will run out of money. So no matter how much money you have, eventually you'll be doing enough deals that you will run out of money. And so you're either going to come to a limiting point where you can't do any more deals, or you're going to have to wait a long time before you can do the next deal, or you're going to have to be okay with partnering with people, right? So that's part of the benefit, is that it's more scalable to start partnering with people. Okay. Now, in terms of cost, in general, we don't really think of things as like investing as a cost. It's an investment, right? So you're going to be investing with somebody, right? So it's a different shift of like, it's not going to cost you money. It's you're investing to get something and reap the benefits of it. But in terms of how much dollar amount would that be, that's going to vary widely according to what you're trying to get, right? So sometimes there are minimum investments, and they will tell you minimum investment is $50,000. Minimum investment is $100,000. Depends on what type of property you're getting and how much people need. But when you're buying maybe you're buying a single family house and you want to buy it with just you and a couple partners, those single family houses can be $100,000, and you only need to put 20% down. So it's $20,000 that you all need to come up with, right? So it could be split up, and it could be done on a much smaller scale, right? Obviously, the returns are going to be smaller, the dollar amounts are going to be smaller, so you'll be splitting a couple $100s between a couple people. So it may or may not be worth it, but you could get in relatively inexpensively, depending on what type of property you're buying.
So what could go wrong?
Well, I mean, the what could go wrong in probably the worst case scenario is you lose your money, right? You just flat out lose your money, right? So in that case, it's like, okay, uh, generally your real estate will still hold some value, right? So say if you bought a house at $100,000 and for some reason you didn't put insurance on it and all of a sudden it got demolished in a tornado, well, it's still worth maybe $10,000. So you don't lose all your money, but say there's the worst case scenario, somehow you lose all your money, right? You put it in there, you didn't pay your taxes or something went wrong and you lost all your money, right? So there is a chance that you could lose your money. There's a chance that if you're also, if you don't have insurance and things like that, you could get sued by your tenant, right? If your tenant falls down or you're negligent as an owner, you could get sued, right? And that does happen. So I would say those are the worst case scenarios. So you got to know those going into it. So you prepare, like make sure you have insurance, make sure you have, a property that is safe. The roof's not caving in, it's not going to cave in on anybody. And you're prepared that like if there is natural disasters or things like that, you do have insurance, and you're also prepared that you're doing maintenance on your property so that it's not going to just fall apart. Right? You are paying your taxes, so you want to just prepare for those particular things.
So like if something went wrong, how is my investment handled? Like how is this involved in it at all, or is it just something I'm told?
Can you say that again? What do you mean? How is it handled?
How would it be handled? So say a deal didn't go as anticipated, and it's starting to go into one of those worst case scenarios where it looks like we're going to lose our money. I'm just imagining, like in real estate decisions, if I owned a property, I have to come up with a decision myself. Do I ride this out? Can I afford to ride this out, or sell and cut a loss? Who makes that decision? How is it handled when I'm investing in one of these types of units?
Yeah, so in general, and I'm talking in general, I'm not necessarily talking about my properties, but in general, okay. This is going to be handled it has to be handled early on. Like these decisions have to be made of who is going to make these decisions, right? Who is going to be the person that's the point person that has some experience or that you trust the most that can handle these decisions, right? And is letting everybody know. So that's why you have to do your due diligence on your partners to figure out, okay, I trust this partner that if even things go bad, they're going to communicate with me and let me know early on so that we can try to mitigate as much as possible. So you want to know those things up front, right? Who's going to make those decisions, right? As things go bad, there is a potential that they do a capital call. So a capital call means they're going to ask all the investors to invest more money. So there is a potential that say, hey, it's not doing good, we're losing, and we're down $10,000. We need everybody to put in another $5,000 or whatever to cover this, plus do some repairs and things like that to get it to the point where we need it to get to. So that is called a capital call, where it's basically the people that are in charge are asking the investors to invest more money. It's not a fun situation. Nobody really wants to do that. So truthfully, if you're an investor, you'll probably raise money earlier, like over-raise a little bit so that you could prepare for things like that, those contingencies. Because it's better to raise it early and when everybody wants to get in on the deal versus later on when the deal is not going well and then you're trying to ask for more money. It's just not a good situation. You're not going to have a good relationship with your partners.
So are those things explained up front, like all the what ifs, or do you just encounter them as you go along?
You should ask all those questions, right? So these are all questions that are asking early on, like what happens if a capital call, like, what happens during a capital call? What happens? How much money do you have in the deal? These are all questions that you're going to ask either if it's a syndication, it's general partners. You're going to ask the people that are the leads on the deal, right? The people that are presenting you this deal. The other thing is you want to ask other people, what the other experienced people who are not in the deal, what do they think about this deal, right? So, Mary, you should come to me if you ever find another deal and somebody's saying, hey, you should invest $50,000 in this deal. You should probably come to me and ask me, Hal, what do you think about this deal? And then I could give you an honest opinion because I don't care because I'm not in the deal, right? I'm not going to say this is a great deal if it's not. so you want to leverage other people, right? And find other people that you trust that can help you out.
So in that case where if there's a capital call that's made and I did want to continue by adding more money, does that mean that, do we all have to agree, or can I just singly opt out?
It's all going to be, so some of those questions that you're asking about how it would, who makes the decisions and how a capital call operates. When you create your LLC, so generally you're all going to invest in an LLC, and that LLC is going to go purchase the property. It's all going to be spelled out in your operating agreement. So in your operating agreement, it should say things like, you could lose your money. If there's a capital call, this is what happens. If somebody wants out earlier, then how do we handle that, right? So there's those type of things should be in your operating agreement. Who makes the decision? Who has the power to make the decision? What if we don't like that person anymore and we want to kick that person out? How do we do that? How do we replace that person? What if that person what if they die, right? What if that person dies, and who's going to take over? What voting rights do we have? Those are all things that are in your operating agreement that your lawyer drafts for you that should be spelled out for you. So you should have a clear understanding how that operates, because it's going to be a legal thing. It's not just like, hey, I feel like I should do it. It's like, no, the document says that person should do it, and that we have to all vote on that person.
Yeah. So like, as an investor who's contributing, does it even matter what type of property it is? Because I heard you mention like the public storage thing. Does it even make a difference to me?
That's an individual. That's an individual's, I guess, feel for what they feel for each type of property, right? So it's one of those things that, like, it's really your call. If you don't care, then you don't have to care. But if you feel that actually multifamily or self-storage has like a brighter future, or has than maybe retail does, right? You're like, you look at a retail shop and you're like, I don't know if I want to buy that, because I don't know if those shops are going to be in business after coronavirus or during the coronavirus, or like even after. What are they going to still be in business? So in those cases, you may feel like, yes, it does matter if I would rather buy that, or would I rather buy an apartment building? Right? So there's going to be different things that you're going to have to consider.
And would I have to know that before I approach somebody as an investor? Like, do I have to have some sort of clarity around what type of investment or type of building I want to invest in? Or can I explore that with someone?
I mean, I would, if you aren't sure, if you're saying like, I'm not sure if I would do an apartment building, a self-storage, retail, single family house, and I don't know, because I just don't know the differences yet, then really you still need to get educated. You really still need to learn what is the difference. Why would I, Powell, start investing in self-storage as well as investing in multifamily, but I don't invest in retail and I don't invest in, I don't know, like industrial? Why? Why do I feel strongly about the things that I'm investing in versus something else? And then when you could ask people, you can read about it, you can hear podcasts about that, and then you'll get a sense of like, oh, I believe that. I believe in this investment. I think it's a good investment for the future. Everybody needs somewhere to live, so I want to invest in houses or apartments because they always need somewhere to live. Or maybe you feel like, I don't really believe that. It's like, it's really your choice.
That makes sense. And then, so if I could afford my own place and I could actually do a straightforward real estate investment, would you say that one is better than the other? Like, I would recommend going with a multifamily, or is it better to just put it all in one shot? My own investment,
and buy your own place. And buy your own place.
Because like, I'm just thinking about what I've seen around me, and most people's instinct is to buy first their own property before they start exploring these other options. So if I, as a first-time investor, I had the capital to do either or, would you recommend one or the other? Or,
I mean, for me, I'm a Robert Kiyosaki guy, right? So I like Robert Kiyosaki, and he's basically going to say there's assets and there's liabilities. And your house, buying a house, is not really an asset, even though it's, some people consider it an asset. He would say an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes away money from your pocket. And he's going to say a house is a liability, whereas investments in apartments or even a rental house or just those type of investments are actually assets, because they're going to put money in your pocket. So I'm a little bit more on that side. I'm not going to say it's bad for anybody to necessarily buy a house if they wanted to buy their house. That's really kind of a personal decision. But I do feel like, hey, if you have some of that money, it could be allocated towards an investment, and that investment can help you, use that investment to help purchase your primary home, if that's what you want.
That makes sense.
That all said, it's also because we live in LA and San Francisco Bay Area, right? So you're buying a house.
Yeah.
It's not $200,000, right? So
No.
you're trying to buy a house that's like, over here in LA, it might be a minimum of like $600,000 in a condo, right? In the Bay Area, it's pretty much the same way or even more. So when you're looking at trying to like save enough money to buy a $600,000 house or condo, or you save that money to go and invest in something else and live in an apartment, I mean, it's kind of like a personal choice, but it's a lot harder to, I would say, to save up for a $600,000 property. Right?
Yep. No, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge. I mean, I feel like I got a better understanding of it. I do gotta go put money in the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we gotta put money in the mirror.
It's cool, like being out here with you. This was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it, but I don't know if you can't really see what's on my own screen. You're back there somewhere.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you coming on. This is the first time I was able to bring somebody on, and I'm glad you were game for this and doing this. Hope everybody got something out of this. If you want to reach out to Mary, either for advice or for questions, Mary, you want to give out any information that people can reach out to you at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. I believe I'm one of your friends, but you can also always email me at gotomarymarketing@gmail.com. And even Instagram handle right now. That's what is it? I just you can always send me an email or find me as I'm in the multifamily masters number there, so you can find me there.
Sure, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Mary, for joining me and being on this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. You guys can always respond to me and let me know if you're had any questions about anything that came up. Otherwise, have a happy New Year, everybody. Celebrate safe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Happy New Year, y'all.